Robotics reshaped galactic society in so many ways. Droids carried out the labor few wished to endure, maintained the vast infrastructure of the Republic, and accelerated advances in science, engineering, and medicine. Across countless worlds, they became indispensable to daily life, the greatest tool civilization had ever created. But any tool can also become a weapon. Across the galaxy, many came to believe that the ideal soldier neither hungers nor tires, that the perfect warrior marches without fear, without hesitation, and without thought for self-preservation. In the age of mechanized conflict, some argued that wars fought by machines would spare living beings from the slaughter of the battlefield, replacing flesh and blood with obedient circuits and steel. Yet the Clone Wars revealed something different. Industrialized warfare, waged across entire star systems by endless ranks of battle droids, transformed war into something else: mechanized industrial war.
You are listening to the Star Lords Podcast.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Are you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder?
But I was going into Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.
Origins.
Look, it's RB551. No wonder he got blasted. He's one of those older models programmed by a central computer. Not us. We're independent thinkers. Roger, roger.
The Separatist Droid Army served as the principal military force of the Confederacy of Independent Systems during the Clone Wars. Formed from the combined droid armies of the Trade Federation, Techno-Union, Commerce Guild, Intergalactic Banking Clans, the Corporate Alliance, and other allied factions, the army was reorganized under the leadership of Count Dooku, as the Separatist crisis escalated into open war. By the conflict's final years, it was said to number in the quintillions of battle droids. Long before the outbreak of war, these corporate powers had expanded their military holdings under the covert manipulation of Darth Sidious, who engineered regional instability and piracy to justify massive rearmament programs. Vast orders of battle droids were commissioned from manufacturers such as Bactoid Combat Automata, Calicoid Creation Nest, and Hauer Chal Engineering in the decade preceding the war. The scale of the Separatist threat became unmistakable during the first Battle of Geonosis in 22 BBY, when over 1 billion B-1 series battle droids were deployed against the Galactic Republic. The battle marked the formal beginning of the Clone Wars and brought the Separatist Droid Army into direct conflict with the Jedi-led Grand Army of the Republic. The Army's ground forces consisted of vast formations of battle droids, supported by armored vehicles and mechanized assault platforms. In space, Separatist fleets relied heavily upon automated starfighters, such as the Vulture droid. Despite its immense size, the Separatist military initially lacked experienced leadership. Early command fell to Severance Tan, Count Dooku's Chiss protege, whose aggressive tactics made her an effective counter to the Jedi before her death at the hands of the Jedi Ichu Shenjon. She was later succeeded by General Grievous, the Kaleesh warlord, who, after proving the effectiveness of his cybernetic enhancements in combat against Visage Ventress, the dirge aboard the space station Trenchant was formally granted the title of Supreme Commander of the droid armies. Other notable commanders included Fen Shesa, Spar, and Alto Stratus, each of whom directed various campaigns throughout the war.
Trade Federation.
The Trade Defense Force served as the private military arm of the Trade Federation, formed to safeguard the Federation's shipping interests at a time when the Galactic Republic lacked the reach to adequately police its outer trade routes. Initially established as a defensive fleet tasked with escorting convoys and suppressing piracy, the organization gradually evolved into one of the largest corporate military forces in the galaxy. By around 214 BBY, the Trade Defense Force had already demonstrated its effectiveness in anti-piracy operations. Following attacks against transport concerns in the Rasik sector, the Federation dispatched a flotilla led by Captor-class heavy munitions cruisers and 2 Munifex-class cruisers, annihilating the pirate forces threatening local commerce. Such victories strengthened the Federation's political influence, though they also raised concern within the core worlds over the growing military capabilities of private corporations. Its personnel reflected both naval and corporate traditions. Officers wore black, gray, and red uniforms marked by opalescent stripes, while Federation Marines trained on Balmorra specialized in defending freighters against boarding actions and protecting cargo ports. The fleet itself relied heavily upon fast corvettes, frigates, and gunships, intended to drive raiders away from vulnerable bulk freighters. Though effective in dispersed security operations, the fleet's responsibilities across thousands of hyperspace routes often prevented it from concentrating force in conventional warfare. Over time, however, the Trade Federation's military posture became increasingly coercive. As Nemodian, Gran, and Celestin interests rose within the Federation hierarchy, the organization shifted from commercial protection toward direct political enforcement. Turbolasers were used to pressure frontier systems into economic concessions, non-Federation vessels were excluded from key ports, and battle droids steadily replaced organic marines aboard Federation warships. Massive Lucrehulk-class battleship vessels became the visible symbol of Federation power across the Outer Rim. The Federation's militarization accelerated following the Stark Hyperspace War, when escalating pirate attacks allowed the Federation to petition the Senate for expanded defensive authority. Publicly, the Federation argued for the right to arm its transports. Privately, Newt Gunray had already entered into a secret alliance with Darth Sidious, who encouraged the construction of a hidden droid army. Manufacturers such as Bactoid Armor Workshop, Hoar Chal Engineering, and Colicoid Creation Nest were contracted to produce battle droids, armored vehicles, and landing craft on a massive scale. Many of these war machines evolved from existing Federation technology. The C-9979 landing craft was derived from one ore barge designed, while the combat-ready B-1 series battle droid developed from earlier security droid models. Other vehicles were unveiled during early demonstrations aboard the battleship Acquisitor prior to the Aradu Trade Summit. Although the Federation attempted to conceal the scale of its military expansion, the existence of its battle droids became public during the Aradu Trade Summit. The army was later field-tested in the Karthak system, before being deployed in full during the invasion of Naboo. There, Federation forces occupied Theed and much of Naboo using overwhelming mechanized force. The occupation collapsed, however, after Padme Amidala organized a counteroffensive alongside the Gungan Grand Army, while Anakin Skywalker destroyed the orbiting droid control ship, deactivating much of the invading army. In the aftermath, the Republic's Supreme Court ordered the Federation's military reduced, and many warships were transferred to the Republic's judicial forces. Federation vessels and crews subsequently participated in operations such as the Second Battle of Zona Masekot. Despite these restrictions, the Federation covertly rebuilt and expanded its forces in the years leading to the Clone Wars, constructing new warships and restoring older missile frigates to service. The full scale and composition of the Trade Federation Droid Army remained largely concealed from the Galactic Republic until the years immediately preceding the Clone Wars. Constructed in secrecy, the Federation's mechanized armies were hidden within the immense hangar bays of the Lucrehulk-class battleship vessels, where droid components and military hardware could be stored in forms that appeared sufficiently benign to evade scrutiny from Republic customs officials. When deployed against worlds such as Locke and Naboo, battle droids were transported from orbit aboard landing craft before being organized into assault formations on the surface. Vehicles such as the multi-troop transport, Trade Federation dropship, and platoon attack craft rapidly delivered B-1 series battle droids directly into combat zones, allowing the Federation to project overwhelming force within hours of planetary landfall. Before later wartime advancements decentralized command functions, the droid army depended heavily upon centralized control systems. Most battle droids were linked to a central control computer, typically housed aboard a dedicated droid control ship positioned in orbit above the target world. Additional ground-based control centers could transmit backup signals, while landed core ships were also capable of broadcasting command frequencies from planetary surfaces. These systems coordinated not only infantry formations but also automated starfighters such as the Vulture droids, whose operational range extended roughly 16,000 kilometers from their control source. This dependence on centralized coordination represented both a strength and a vulnerability. The destruction of a control computer resulted in the immediate shutdown of connected droid forces, while command signals themselves could be intercepted or overwritten through hostile encryption, occasionally causing confusion or paralysis within the Army's ranks. Automated commands and lack of field-level tactical thinking were also weaknesses where clone troopers proved superior. As a strength, however, forces could act in perfect coordinated unity without time delays for orders or immediate change of plans should the situation dictate. The invasion force deployed against Theed demonstrated the scale of the Federation's military capability prior to the Clone Wars. The assault included 33 multi-troop transports carrying over 3,000 battle droids, supported by hundreds of armored assault tanks, in addition to droid starfighters and auxiliary infantry units. Specialized droids and weapon systems, including beetle droids, energy pummels, and biocannons, were also fielded during the occupation of Naboo, where they were used against both the Naboo security forces and the Gungan Grand Army. By the outbreak of the Clone Wars, the Trade Federation publicly claimed neutrality while quietly supporting the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Federation fleets operated alongside the broader Separatist Navy, fielding vessels such as the Munificent-class Star Frigate, and participating in campaigns across the galaxy, including the blockade of Pantora. Ultimately, the Trade Federation's military assets were absorbed into the larger Separatist Droid Army, where its battle droids and warships became central to the Confederacy's war effort against the Republic.
Commerce Guild.
The Commerce Guild punitive security forces served as the enforcement arm of the Commerce Guild, tasked with protecting Guild personnel, securing commercial assets, and maintaining order across member worlds. Prior to the Clone Wars, the organization operated as a hybrid force composed of both organic security personnel and battle droids, with most mechanized units overseen and maintained by Gossam officers. Following the Commerce Guild's alignment with the Confederacy of Independent Systems, its forces were absorbed into the broader Separatist Droid Army. In 24 BBY, the Commerce Guild established operations on the tax-exempt world of Korriban, where members facing disciplinary action were frequently reassigned. Additional corporate offices soon followed in the spaceport settlement of Dreshte, transforming the ancient Sith world into an increasingly active commercial outpost. By 23 BBY, however, escalating thefts and black market activity targeting Guild officials provided the organization with justification to deploy armed security forces to the planet in violation of Republic law. Under the pretext of combating rampant crime, the Commerce Guild introduced a substantial military presence on Korriban, placing battle droids alongside heavy armored security troops. Equipped with plastoid combat armor and battlefield helmets. Among the droid contingents were DSD-1 Dwarf Spider droid units and larger OG-9 homing spider droid artillery walkers, officially deployed to suppress criminal networks. The force had also served to tighten Guild controls over local trade and eliminate black market operations that had increasingly disrupted corporate activity. The situation on Korriban soon intersected with broader Sith conspiracies unfolding in the years before the Clone Wars. During a Jedi investigation led by Obi-Wan Kenobi, Commerce Guild troops and patrol forces became involved in operations surrounding the pursuit of the criminals Granta Omega and Jenna Zan Arbor. Guild security patrols engaged Jedi forces in high-speed pursuits across the Valley of the Dark Lords, while droid armies battled Jedi within the abandoned Sith Academy, housed inside the Great Sith Temple. These events also marked one of the earliest known intersections between Guild President Shu Mai and Count Dooku, then operating publicly as a political reformer while secretly serving the Sith as Darth Tyrannus. During the confrontation on Korriban, newly developed super battle droids were deployed alongside spider droid formations to repel Jedi intrusions into Dooku's hidden operations. The alliance that emerged between the Commerce Guild and Dooku would later become a cornerstone of the Separatist movement. At the outset of the Clone Wars, the punitive security forces initially retained their independent command structures, though coordination problems between the various corporate armies quickly became apparent. Under General Grievous, a Separatist military reorganized many of these disparate formations into specialized task force, designed for rapid offensive campaigns and planetary assaults. The organization fielded both organic and mechanized formations. Organic security divisions consisted of layered command structures built around squads, troops, and larger divisions led primarily by Gotham security chiefs and commandos. Their droid contingents included formations of dwarf spider droids, advanced dwarf spider droids, spelunker probe droids, and OG-9 homing spider droids, operating in coordinated artillery and reconnaissance roles, often supported by detachments of B-1 or B-2 series battle droids. Like the rest of the Separatist war machine, the punitive security forces ceased to exist in 19 BBY, following the fall of the Confederacy. After Darth Vader transmitted the shutdown command that deactivated Separatist droid forces across the galaxy, the remaining organic elements were subdued or absorbed during the rise of the Galactic Empire.
Intergalactic Banking Clan.
The Collections and Security Division served as the military and enforcement arm of the Intergalactic Banking Clan prior to the Clone Wars. Originally established to recover debts and safeguard banking clan facilities, convoys, and officials, the organization evolved into a fully militarized force as tensions between the Republic and Separatist movements intensified. When Chairman San Hill formally aligned the banking clan with the Confederacy of Independent Systems, the division and its assets were incorporated into the growing Separatist Droid Army. The force combined mechanized battle droids with the organic soldiers of the Yotrin Guard, reflecting the banking clan's preference for blending traditional security forces with industrial military technology. During the early stages of the war, Collections and Security Division units operated independently under their own command structures, but these fragmented deployments proved inefficient in large-scale campaigns. Under the direction of General Grievous, the division was reorganized alongside other corporate armies into more centralized and specialized Separatist task forces. Among its most feared assets were the IG-100 MagnaGuard units, elite bodyguard droids commonly assigned to high-ranking Separatist leaders. Because of their relatively limited number and highly specialized programming, MagnaGuards did not maintain a conventional command hierarchy, instead obeying whichever designated authority they had been assigned to protect. The division also fielded formations of Moon Guards and IG Lancer combat droids, both of which followed a shared organizational structure commanded by organic Moon officers. Its military hierarchy was organized into divisions, brigades, troops, and squads. Divisions were commanded by Moon Guard colonels and consisted of multiple brigades supported by logistical personnel. Brigades, typically led by captains, combined infantry formations with armored support units such as Hailfire class droid tank detachments. Smaller troop and squad formations were commanded by lieutenants and sergeants, with infantry ranks composed of either Moon Guards or IG Lancer combat droids. Like the rest of the Separatist military apparatus, the Collections and Security Division collapsed in 19 BBY following the fall of the Confederacy. After Darth Vader executed the Separatist Council, including San Hill on Mustafar, he transmitted the master shutdown signal that deactivated most Separatist droid forces throughout the galaxy, bringing the division's operations to an abrupt end.
Techno-Union Droid Army.
The Techno-Union Droid Army was the military arm of the Techno-Union, composed primarily of battle droids, mechanized assault units, and industrial war machines developed through the Union's vast technological infrastructure. During the Separatist crisis, Foreman Wat Tambor formally pledged the army to Count Dooku on Geonosis, integrating its forces into the expanding Separatist Droid Army alongside the armies of other major corporate powers. The Techno-Union's forces reflected the organization's industrial and scientific priorities. Unlike some Separatist factions that relied upon mixed organic and mechanized armies, the Union favored highly specialized droid infantry, automated walkers, tactical droids, and heavy support units. The arsenals included standard B-1 series battle droids, B-2 super battle droids, Cortosis battle droids, Crab droids, Octoptara tri-droids, and a range of 00M series, commanded and pilot droids. The Union also fielded starfighter forces such as the Mankavim 814 Light Interceptor and larger warships, including the Bulwark Mark I and Hard Cell class interstellar transports. In 22 BBY, during the opening year of the Clone Wars, Wat Tambor and his tactical droid T-8175 directed the Separatist invasion of Ryloth, following the discovery of valuable treasure connected to Pasul Argenti. The campaign combined orbital blockades, heavy artillery, and entrenched defensive positions. Neomoidian officer Amar Tuk commanded the orbital fleet, while the tactical droid TX-20 oversaw planetary proton cannon batteries. Near the campaign's conclusion, Republic forces liberated the capital city of Lesu, and Wat Tambor was captured while attempting to flee under orders from Count Dooku. Even after the fall of Ryloth, Techno-Union operations continued. Scientist Kul Teska later led surviving Union forces in efforts to recover components of the gravitic polarization beam with assistance from Cad Bane. Following confrontations with Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano, Teska escaped aboard Bane's vessel, the Sleight of Hand. The Techno-Union also maintained major installations across the galaxy. In 21 BBY, Republic forces assaulted the Union's base on Zagobah, where Wat Tambor and General Grievous coordinated the defense before the planet ultimately fell to the Republic. As the war dragged on, Tambor grew dissatisfied with the battlefield limitations of conventional battle droids and turned increasingly towards biological experimentation. Cloning operations were established in Salukami, while a research facility on Nelvan conducted experiments involving mutation, cybernetic control systems, and the weaponization of native Nelvanians through the use of a siphon generator. These experiments produced heavily altered warriors fitted with grafted weapon systems before the facility was destroyed by Anakin Skywalker. While the collapse of the Confederacy in 19 BBY, the Techno-Union was dissolved, absorbed into the rising galactic empire alongside many of the galaxy's major industrial and technological corporations.
Corporate Alliance.
The Corporate Alliance Policy Administration Directorate served as the military and security branch of the Corporate Alliance prior to the Clone Wars. Tasked with protecting Corporate Alliance holdings from sabotage, piracy, and industrial espionage, the Directorate maintained a combination of organic security forces and mechanized droid units. During the rise of the Separatist movement, Magistrate Pascal Argente formally pledged these forces to the Confederacy of Independent Systems, where they became integrated into the larger Separatist Droid Army. The Directorate's organic forces consisted primarily of the Kurivar Fusiliers, disciplined infantry units responsible for guarding Corporate Alliance facilities and enforcing security across corporate territory. Though comparatively modest in size beside the immense droid armies fielded by other Separatist corporations, the Fusiliers maintained a structured military hierarchy broadly modeled after the Grand Army of the Republic. Their formations ranged from squads of 12 soldiers led by sergeants to regiments commanded by generals and supported by artillery and logistics personnel. In battle, the Fusiliers relied heavily upon mechanized fire support. Corporate Alliance forces fielded numerous artillery platforms and assault vehicles, including the NR-9N99 Persuader class droid enforcer, a heavily armed wheel-driven tank commonly nicknamed the, quote, snail droid. Additional support came from Corporate Alliance artillery batteries and energy pummel siege weapons, including heavier variants designed for sustained bombardment operations. These artillery emplacements were typically operated by engineering crews supported by command personnel. The Directorate also maintained naval assets such as the Fantail-class destroyer, though its military doctrine emphasized ground support and suppression operations more heavily than fleet warfare. Following the outbreak of the Clone Wars, Corporate Alliance forces were reorganized alongside other major corporate armies under the centralized command structures established by General Grievous and the Separatist High Command. Like other constituent militaries of the Confederacy, the Corporate Alliance Policy Administration Directorate effectively ceased to exist in 19 BBY after Darth Vader assassinated Pascal Argente and the remaining members of the Separatist Council on Mustafar. He activated the Master Shutdown signal that deactivated most Separatist droid forces across the galaxy, bringing the Directorate and its armies to an end.
Battlefront.
Backed by the immense strength of the Confederate Navy, the Confederacy of Independent Systems openly challenged the authority of the Galactic Republic with the outbreak of the Clone Wars in 22 BBY. In the war's early stages, the Separatists relied upon a largely defensive strategy, fortifying their territories while expanding the industrial capacity needed to sustain a prolonged conflict. This approach frustrated Republic commanders such as Mace Windu, but it also granted the Republic time to mobilize its own forces, an outcome quietly desired by Darth Sidious, who orchestrated both sides of the war from the shadows. Rather than seeking immediate conquest, early Separatist offensives focused on destabilization. Campaigns were designed to deny the Republic strategic advantages, spread fear across civilian populations, and eliminate political figures within the Confederacy who favored a negotiated peace. During this period, the Separatists also pursued increasingly destructive weapons programs, including the development of swamp gas, trihexylophene 1138, and a nanovirus engineered specifically to target clone troopers. As the war progressed, however, the Confederacy shifted from containment to expansion. Separatist forces launched a succession of offensives that brought large portions of the Outer Rim under their control. Following his public emergence at the Battle of Hailfire, General Grievous became synonymous with the Confederacy's military successes. Ruthless, heavily cybernetically enhanced, and driven by deep hatred for the Republic. Grievous directed campaigns marked by widespread devastation across worlds such as Atrakan, Honegger, and Humbarine. The scale of destruction inflicted by Separatist droid armies and their non-human allies contributed significantly to the anti-alien prejudice that later emerged during the reign of the Empire. By 20 BBY, during the mission of Jun, Count Dooku had grown confident enough in Separatist strength to question whether further political deception was even necessary. Yet the war itself had never been intended merely as a military struggle. For Darth Sidious, the conflict was a carefully engineered means of exhausting the Republic, destroying the Jedi Order and consolidating power. The conflict reached its climax with the Battle of Coruscant. Seeking to divert Jedi attention and advance his plans for Anakin Skywalker, Sidious ordered General Grievous to strike the galactic capital directly. Vast numbers of battle droids descended upon Coruscant in a massive assault intended to both rescue the kidnapped Supreme Chancellor and lure Skywalker further toward the dark side. Although initially successful, the campaign collapsed after Obi-Wan Kenobi and Skywalker led the Open Circle fleet in a counterattack, defeated the Separatist forces, and rescued Chancellor Palpatine. The final collapse of the Confederacy followed swiftly. Days later, Kenobi tracked and killed General Grievous on Utapau, crippling the Separatist military command structure. Soon afterwards, Darth Vader traveled to Mustafar and executed the Separatist Council on Sidious's orders. With the Confederacy's leadership eliminated, Vader transmitted the master shutdown signal that deactivated Separatist droid forces across the galaxy in 19 BBY. On worlds as distant as Mercana, battle droids abruptly ceased functioning where they stood, bringing a sudden and definitive end to the Clone Wars.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
Bactoid Combat Automata presents the new B1 series battle droid. Tomorrow's soldier, today. Citizens of the Outer Rim, are you tired of unreliable militias? Concerned about pirate raids, labor unrest, or local insurrections? Need a security force that never sleeps, never questions orders, and never asks for payment? Then you need the dependable efficiency of the B1 series battle droid. Proudly manufactured by Bactoid Combat Automata. Why choose B1? Low maintenance, no food, no leave rotations, no morale issues, no inconvenient ethical concerns. A B1 droid remains combat ready 24 standard hours a day. Cost-effective security. Why recruit expensive organic troops when a single deployment can deliver millions of obedient soldiers directly to your world? The B1 is lightweight, replaceable, easily mass-produced, and programmed for absolute loyalty. Some units may exhibit independent personality traits after prolonged deployment. This is normal and not considered a manufacturing defect. Bactoid Combat Automata, building the future of peacekeeping. Welcome aboard the Millennial Falcon. This is Christian.
And this is Jordan.
And we're currently on the beautiful tropical world of Kuriva. Just trying to get Jordan feeling better. It's been not feeling super great lately, so hopefully this tropical environment will cleanse his soul and his sinuses.
Yeah, I got a bit of a cold, but got to get that Vit C in me, and we should be good to go.
Hopefully it's not a Confederate bioweapon.
Yeah, they're using me to spread the plague throughout the galaxy. But
Wouldn't be the first time.
Before the spreading of plagues and whatnot, let's get into some housekeeping here. So if you want to be a supporting member of the show, don't forget to go to patreon.com/StarLores. And for $3 USDs a month, you can become a member, get access to all the bonus episodes. $5 USDs a month gets you to the Jedi Knight tier, in which you get all the episodes ad-free. So that's always good, as well as the bonus episodes. And don't forget to rate and review the show. If you can't support monetarily, absolutely not a problem. I understand. But another way you can support us, rate, review the show wherever you listen to podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, all that good stuff wherever y'all listen. YouTube, go sub to us on YouTube. Trying to push that YouTube subscriber number up. It's it's tough. But
Stuff when you don't make visual content.
yeah, I know. I've been trying. If anyone appreciates my shorts, go online and look at my short. It's on all our social medias, which you can also check out. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and X, but we upload all our shorts there as well as YouTube. But I try to get like little clips from the show with some, picture so you can visualize a little bit.
You don't have to keep fantasizing of what we look like.
Well, no, I put pictures of like the characters.
The topic.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, if you want to support the show, we also, we accept PayPal and Bitcoin and all that good stuff. And if you want to reach out to us, any questions, mailbag stuff, I do ask that you can DM us, but the best way to get mailbag is to actually send us an email. So if you have something you want us to discuss in an episode, send us an email at starlorspodcast@gmail.com and we can discuss it in the episode potentially.
Once we get a mailbox, you can send us physical mail as well. If you want to write us a letter.
Yeah.
I want to resurrect it as a means of communication.
Sure. Okay. Other than that, I think that's about it for now. I'm sure there's more stuff I missed, but let's talk about the robots are taking over.
Yes, a real life theme.
It feels very prescient.
Yeah,
very prescient.
Yeah.
Both in robotics and in warfare.
Yes, it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
But the Confederacy of Independent Systems Droid Army. Of course, the entirety of the Clone Wars is very much defined by this clash between biological clone troopers and the droids. It's not a lot of times in science fiction. There's a droid faction or a robot faction that's like trying to kill humanity. Star Wars, at least in this story, doesn't have that element of it. The classic Terminator, Skynet, robots are out to get you. Warhammer has its Necrons. You have, I don't know, like the robots in Helldivers, like multiple fictions as a trope this exists in. However, in Star Wars specifically, the underlying story element of machines being other, like you have that with Darth Vader, like something negative or being bad, does come up a lot. And I think that is kind of Lucas's feelings towards like automation and robotics and things generally as a theme. But it also it's not robots taking over. It's not like a droid brain that's running the CIS. The CIS is at its core run by political entities that are all biological. They just use these machines as tools, as an army, right?
Yeah, I will say, like, I mean, Lucas did make R2D2 and C3PO, who
there are positive,
like endearing robots, right? And they are kind of AIs themselves. They're
certainly
some kind of artificial intelligence. I don't know if that was ever totally flushed out, but
yeah, I don't think it was like one of Lucas's main themes, but it certainly is a subtext, like, especially like his descriptions of Darth Vader being more machine than man now, and twisted and evil, and
yeah, but that's sort of the weird thing about his depiction of it, like. He's sort of the pure droid is almost aloof and stupid and not even necessarily competent in certain ways, but not in other ways. Like even the droid army, the battle droids are kind of depicted as like not that smart. But then where the real evil comes from is like the melding of the droid and the biologic.
Yeah. The cybernetic.
Yeah, the cybernetics. That's where it is in Star Wars. It is like depicted as this evil. Like it's almost like Lucas has this thing where they have to be separated.
Yeah,
they're fine and harmless when they're separated, but when you combine them, Lucas Lucas has this very anti transhuman streak, which I'm here for. I'm here for.
Certainly, yes. Yeah. Filthy clankers.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can exist over there, but don't let them cross. It is interesting to note too, in like anti-droidism has existed in Star Wars since A New Hope. In the cantina, when Luke arrives with his droids, they get told, "Go outside. Like we don't serve your kind here."
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting that they've retroactively told why that is, because droids also seem at the same time so universally accepted. There's droids everywhere all the time, in all kinds of ways, everything from like little mouse droids to like C-3PO, right? And the reason for this anti-droid sentiment came from the Clone Wars. After you had all these robotic armies kind of deployed and ripped apart the galaxy, it created like a general distrust of droids. Now it's not to the point like everyone hates droids all the time, but it certainly made people more wary of them, and that was because of the CIS's mass use of droids.
Yeah. I mean, just in like thinking about it too, like gaming it out, if I lived in that universe, there would just be like the problem of like, is this droid spying on you? Especially if you're in Mos Eisley, right? Like where a lot of criminal behavior, gray market things are happening.
Yes.
You don't want a bunch of droids like
Listening
gathering
to your
intel and then
conversations,
delivering it to the Republic or something like that,
Yeah, carrying around like a little data pad that records everything you say and reports it back to its master.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing like that would ever happen in real life. But yeah, just there's these cool elements that are dotted across the story of Star Wars that kind of have these like interesting tie-ins. I never thought of that connection before myself, but yeah. Funny to note that we've mentioned this before, that like we're really dealing with private militaries essentially operating for these big private conglomerates and companies. Another Lucas theme. A lot of I've said this before. It's like, imagine if Walmart had armed private security that was like an army that could rival the U.S. Army, right?
Right.
They have their own aircraft carrier branded with like Walmart on the side. And then they're like trading blows with other companies and stuff. In this case, they're all united against the government. So they're not fighting each other so much as fighting America, let's say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting concept, and I'm here for it. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely makes for some good storytelling.
Yeah. Couple other factoids about the droid army. One, despite its heavy use of droids, like we're talking, you hear numbers as high as the quintillions of battle droids, which is an insane number. But makes sense for a galactic war. If anything, the clones are undercounted, I think.
Yeah.
But it also speaks to how effective the clones are against the droids. They would have to have crazy KD ratios to even compete with armies of that size.
Yeah.
But it does speak to their ability to mass produce. So you don't have to feed, you don't have to train. You can just build and manufacture. And we've seen kind of what that looks like even in episode 2 when they're going through the droid factory, right? They just pump out units that don't need to eat, don't need to sleep. So as a fighting force, even if individually a battle droid isn't super effective, as a mass, it's overwhelming. It's kind of how they do their work. Instead of being like a Terminator, that's a heavy cost investment, but if it gets destroyed, that's a loss. They can just mass produce battle droids and just overwhelm their opponents. Which is something to keep in mind whenever you're thinking like, man, these battle droids aren't super combat effective. They're not meant to be as individuals. They're meant to work in tandem with a bunch of them and or in concert with other droid platforms, which is the other thing I was going to say, is a lot of the vehicles in the CIS are also droids themselves. They're not necessarily being piloted by a battle droid. The tank is the droid, especially when talking about I forget what they're called, but they're the single track tractor tank droids. Yeah. Some vehicles are, of course, piloted by battle droids, but things like the Vulture droid, that's a fighter, but it's also a droid by itself.
Yeah.
The Tri-droid, same thing. So a lot of the vehicles you see, the droid gunship, another one, are not actually piloted. The droid is the vehicle, which is cool. And then to counter everything I just said, the CIS also used lots of organic forces as well. Certainly not in the same scale or numbers as the droid military. That's obviously the bulk of the fighting force, but they certainly supplemented their forces with tons of organic units based off of worlds that they were fighting over. You know, you have the Nimbus commandos, you have the Fusiliers and stuff. That these different factions have organic. Even the Nemodians have organic soldiers that also contribute. Genosians, right? They all are bringing their organic soldiers as well to the battlefield. So the CIS is really a very diverse patchwork of fighting forces that are kind of like combined into the one big military operation. And it's key leadership: General Grievous, Severance Tan, Alto Stratus, like all these names we've mentioned, like and all these characters will also carry their own episodes in the future as well. But they are like the human commander, or I shouldn't say human, organic commanders that are the brains behind the actual droid army, and they're like command and control, and then they delegate that to higher thinking command droids, and then it goes down to like the frontline soldier.
Yep. You know, it's sort of it kind of brings up questions about, because I always like to bring it to the real world, about all the incentives of like the military industry to roboticize things and to make them autonomous, and to take the human out, just because, you know, humans don't want to go die on the front lines of battlefields, right? So there's always
I'd say they're harder to convince.
Yeah. Yeah, in general. You know, we kind of see right now, you know, I try not to tie this too much to real world events, but I'll just say we're recording this in the spring of 2026. And the Iran war is going on, the Ukraine war is going on, and these two wars have been defined by drone warfare.
Yeah.
They are the drone wars. I kind of wonder if they're going to be called that, like, in the future.
Well, if not, you heard it here first.
Yeah, you heard it here first. Yeah, we should call
it the drone wars.
Yeah, the drone wars. I was actually reading a bit about Iran's drone industry and these Shahed drones that they make. These things cost $10,000 US, and they're like the size of a human, like a full-grown man, and about that weight too. And like, they produce 50,000 of them a year.
Yeah,
and
that does sound expensive on the surface, but when you also count how much it costs, so like some certain missiles and
I'm saying that's cheap.
Yeah,
that's what I'm
saying. It sounds like a big amount of money up front, but when you compare it to the cost of a tank or a jet fighter or a bomb, they are very cheap.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I think a Tomahawk missile is like $2 million a piece to manufacture, right? And the US makes like 50 to 100 a year. So like, just compared, the sheer volume is gives you a huge advantage, much like what happens with the Droid Federation. Like, we're talking quintillions of droid units.
They outproduce you.
Yeah. It's also interesting, like, if you read about what's going on in Ukraine, one of the ways they've stayed in that war is basically drones. And Russia is using a lot of drones too.
It's going both ways.
Yeah, it's going both ways. However, Ukraine's, like, their economy is just like tanking. It's like in collapse. However, it's almost shifted entirely to drone manufacturing. They're like, now, I think the last number I read is now Ukraine is pushing out about 30,000 drones a year. That's about their clip. And they're actually starting to export those drones. So like, they're selling them.
And they're appearing in other battlefields.
Yeah. It's very interesting to just watch this develop sort of over the course of my life, because I think I vaguely remember George Bush started using drones, and then Obama really started using drones. Yeah. And those drones that he was using were big, and like, they're like basically a jet fighter.
Yeah, the distinction is not something like the Predator drone, which is the size of a jet, and certainly their capabilities are quite advanced. Like, they can pick out targets.
Oh yeah,
flying overhead without even being seen. Right,
and they carry massive payloads and stuff like that.
But it's a different kind of drone warfare that you're talking about now, where you have small quadcopters.
It's come like such a long way, and there's like drone swarms, right? Like you can have a swarm of drones that can all like move in concert with one another. It's like pretty wild to watch like this sort of the future of warfare. And then like it goes to question, like, in the Star Wars universe, like, why, when they had these capabilities, why didn't they just like mechanize everything? Like why did they even have biologics as much as they did? Like, if you even, not just clone troopers, but going into the Galactic Republic, or sorry, the Galactic Empire era of just stormtroopers, right? Because they had like, I don't know, billions and billions of stormtroopers. And like, I wonder why they wouldn't have just mechanized everything.
Part of it is a rule of cool.
Yeah, that's true.
There is currently a huge debate about what the role of future warfare is going to look like. We are, like you said, we're at like a very interesting historical crossroads.
Yeah.
And we, like, these developments have happened in history. Like when you saw World War I, for example, was the biggest mechanization of war. You went from like Napoleonic style warfare to like modern warfare. And every war has these different iterations. Like you have the development of tanks and aircraft as combat capable.
Yeah, another example is even the 30 Years' War, because during that period, cannons started being deployed, and that ended castles. Like castles were no longer a thing because of cannons, because cannons could just rip them apart. So like people stopped building castles.
It's no longer exactly. And this is like the evolution of warfare. It's been going on since the first person picked up a rock. But that being said, like we're at this new inflection point, and that we don't know what the future is going to look like. And I've heard arguments from across the board, and there have always been arguments about like typically your militaries are now broken down into Air Force, Navy, infantry, ground forces, and armored vehicles and artillery. And I've heard arguments that like artillery are now outdated as a thing, but now we see a lot of it being heavily used in Ukraine, for example. Like the real world and the textbook doesn't always align. And currently the argument around like what is the role of the future of the infantry with the development of drones.
Right.
That's where your most basic, like the infantry is the most basic form of fighting unit you can create, right? It's just a guy with a gun or a weapon, let's say, if you're going to go ancient. And they've always been a part of warfare. You've had the development of chariots and cavalry around that. You've armored tanks and airplanes, but the infantry has always been there. And what does that look like for the future? You still need someone that can take and hold territory.
And also if you lose like your industrial capacity for some reason,
at the end of the day,
you can't create those.
It's going to be
droids.
you with the weapon. And,
you probably still want some kind of standing army. It is also a wonder, like, how would it like affect your culture if you didn't have a standing military or a military tradition where there's like, you probably know, most people would know someone who they're like third generation soldier, right? And it kind of everyone in their family goes and does a stint in the military or whatever. There's this sort of thing about like the military as a cultural glue that like promotes nationalism and like a cultural identity. And if you don't have that, if everything becomes mechanized and people like literally don't have skin in the game anymore, what kind of like downstream effects would that have in a completely roboticized army or military?
And what values would that turn into? It's just my robots fighting your robots. And there's no real like cultural incentive anymore. That being said, I think that's almost like the AI argument. Like AI is going to take all the jobs. Like at the end of the day, you're still going to need some kind of command and control. You're still going to need soldiers of some capacity, even in a completely automated military. And you're watching the evolution of tactics to counter drones too. So drones at first were very effective, but as wars do drag on, tactics are being developed to counter them, right? So you have like jamming signals, and then are they going to do hardwired drones now? And then the counter to that is all this big netting that they put up, right? Like there's this constant back and forth of like, you develop a weapon, we develop a way to counter it. Truthfully, I don't know that it's going to be an all completely automated system, which a lot of people hope for. Like wars are costly, not just in dollars, but in human life and blood. And suffering.
Yeah, I mean, that is the benefit of
droid warfare.
Yeah, it's like there's probably a lot less death, right? If one side would capitulate, like once their droid army is destroyed, they'll just capitulate and not fight anymore, right?
Because they don't want to lose any real people.
Yeah.
But I don't know that's...
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah, no one can really say what the future will look like. But it's certainly an interesting observation of like, we've already seen how tactics have changed and how they've evolved and what the roles of frontline soldiers are going to look like in the future and what things you're aware of and what the dangers are. I've heard people talk about like the buzzing noise that drones make being like the new PTSD trigger, right? Like, it used to be the backfire of cars would set someone off of like, artillery or gunshots, right?
Right.
And now it's going to be that buzzing noise of a drone. Like, you get paranoid. You start looking up to the sky. You're just instinctual reaction. Speaking to that trauma, that's like the trauma that the galaxy suffers from with the droids, right?
Exactly.
Created that automatic distrust. But
or if you think about like during the Mandalorian Wars, like the Basilisk War droid, like dropping down on your head is like that would be traumatizing.
Yeah, certainly. But across the board, like it's a very interesting and prescient discussion to have.
Totally.
Robotics and robotics as a whole, even for civilian applications. There's a lot of companies out there testing different models of robots that they're claiming will hopefully be available to the public. You have the automation of jobs like warehousing and things, and you also have things like policing and firefighting that have also been looked at as like the use of drones, farming. It's affecting a lot of different industries, not strictly. We're obviously talking about the military capacity because we're talking about a droid army here, but there are other capacities as well that this technology is spreading. And will it be just normal to have drones just hovering around all the time, just like Star Wars has droids walking around everywhere? Or you have smartphones in your pockets, right? Like it's just another thing that we.
Yeah. On that note, and just before we wrap up here, I actually know a guy who he's from the U.S., but he came up to Alberta because he's a farmer, but he developed a drone that looks like basically an eagle or like a bird of prey.
Oh,
and it's actually very effective in scaring off pests, and it just flies around your farm all day, and it's like pretty cheap for him to make. And I guess he built a couple prototypes and was like, he's selling it to a tech company up in Calgary. And, but yeah, it's funny. It's just like little things like that. And you can automate it too, where you don't really have to do much. You just set a flight path and it'll do that.
Charge it whenever it comes down every so often.
Yeah.
And like I've seen crop dusting done with drones. And I've seen, it's an interesting technology for sure. You have like the dog robot drones that they're using for search and rescue and policing. Like I believe China's deployed a bunch of quadricopters for firefighting and for policing as well. So it's just an interesting future that we'll be looking at here.
Absolutely.
And drones will certainly be part of it.
Will it be more Star Wars or more Terminator?
That's always the question that we have to wonder. One last quick thought.
Okay.
I just find it super funny that the Hailfire droid, like a lot of these different corporate elements, like their security divisions, have some kind of like collections component as well to them. It's like the Hailfire droid is 2 wheels and like a bunch of missile batteries. Like what? What debts are you collecting with that thing? It's just a funny thought. Like, if your bank had a tank and it knocked over your house when it came to repossess, like
that is
just crazy thought.
Funny thought. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. And don't forget to hit subscribe, leave a 5-star rating or review. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. So go check us out at all those places. And we will see you next time.